Are we live, Nicholas?
It appears so.
Is the skeet skeeted? Did we skeet the skeet?
It has been skeeted. We are good.
It has been skeeted. Okay.
Lil Joe.
Skeet! Whoops, I don't want to quote skeet. I just want to skeet. I want to re-skeet. There we go.
What's going on?
I don't know, Nicholas. I think last week you were under the weather. This week I've been under the weather.
This is true.
Man, oh man.
But my camera's working this week, everybody, so I'm in a much better mood.
Well, that's good. That's good. I was gonna Amazon you some Midol after you bit my fucking head off last week.
But, so mad. I was so mad. I apologize to everybody except Joe.
Well, I'm sure I had it coming.
I apologized to him so fast after the show ended. I was so
did he though? Did he? I'm not. Yeah. I mean, if it's not on public record, Nicholas, then you know.
Oh my goodness! You work in the private sector. Everything you do could be just lies. Do you want me to do that to you? Everything I do is in the
no. I've got to be very legitimate, Nicholas. I have notes I have to write that have to be.
I've seen his notes, everybody. You know what? They're not in the public sector. Give or take. I don't know.
Well, they're not supposed to be. That'd be a HIPAA violation, Nicholas. Jesus Christ. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all ages, especially the lawyers, I do everything by the book. TLDR Studios proudly presents to you the greatest, the most honest, the most trustworthiest comic book team in the world. He is your everyday comic book writer, Nick Friar. I am your friendly and truthful neighborhood chiropractor, backcracker, Dr. Joe. Together we are the TLDR Comic Book Club, baby. Tried to cram too much in there, Nicholas, and I flubbed it up.
You didn't have any fumbles, though. You just crammed a lot in there.
It was a little clunky there at the end. A little bumpy. It was like a Spirit Airlines landing, a little bumpy.
I'm not going to say you were a Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, but I mean, I didn't think you fumbled it that much.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I was trying to think who's the other end of the spectrum of him, of Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. I honestly, off the top of my head, like who fumbles a shit ton. I couldn't think of who that necessarily would be.
Who's the current running back? The non.
Ramondre.
Yeah, Ramondre got he got the drop skis, the fumble skis.
Yeah. Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, man, what a run that guy had. Anyways, we've now reached our football quota for the decade. We got a couple of image books to discuss, doing another mainline episode. We may have a few of these to close out August, although maybe we'll move up the solicit. We'll talk about that later. Just a reminder, though, for everybody, when we're not doing mainline episodes, when we're not doing our monthly solicit as well, we are doing Friar Side Chats, which are conversations with creators across the industry. That's the only bit of content from us that you're not going to find on our YouTube page or on Instagram Live, but you definitely want to subscribe there because we're always doing weekly comic book releases, mainline episodes, and solicits over there. Like, subscribe, helps the show out a ton. But when it comes to Friar Side Chats, those are audio channels only. So you have to make sure you're subscribed to one of those for sure, even if you like primarily to watch Joe and I on YouTube or Instagram Live, because you want to listen to those conversations with creators that we have on the show. And we have range from indie comics creators to newcomers to Scott Snyder and other titans of the industry. We actually have another Scott book that we'll be talking about later today. A lot of news actually with Scott too, Joe. I don't know if you saw the Department of Truth news, but he's going to be writing issue 0 of Department of Truth, and it's going to be Elvis centric. He's a big Elvis guy, so I'm very excited to check that out. Obviously, him and Tynan are very good friends. But yes, make sure you subscribe to one of our audio channels. That's Apple, Spotify, Geeks Worldwide Radio, Audible, Amazon Music, all the major podcasting platforms. Subscribe and leave a 5-star rating and review. Otherwise, you're going to learn the real meaning of Tenacious Doc. A lot to get to, Joe, but a little catching up. I have not. I'm reading plenty. Obviously, you and I are both tallying our way to reading 1,000 comic books on the year. So I'm definitely digging into some, and I'm always trying to dig into back issues and stuff. I think it's just, I don't know why people don't do that. It's a strange thing. But there's always, this is why we do what we do. We want to find things that we missed out on. Well, a thing that I never checked out when it was an ongoing title a few years ago was Tom King's 12-issue maxi series, Strange Adventures. Never really cared for Strange, like Adam Strange. He just never really did a whole lot for me. Never didn't read a whole heck of a lot of stuff he'd been in before, but I remember this getting rave reviews, and I was like, you know what, I was at my local library where they do have comic books there, and also I heard that this book was low key a great Mr. Terrific book. And as I mentioned, after I saw the Superman movie, I was like, I need to read some Mr. Terrific stuff because I really enjoyed the character in that movie. So I've checked out Strange Adventures. I am now 9 issues in. There are 3 more issues for me to read. Joe, this is amazing. I'm absolutely blown away. This is, like you've got Batman and Superman, and again, it is an awesome Mr. Terrific series. But the political nature to this and the twists and turns you go along the way, and I just hit the mother load on twist. I finished issue 10. I did read another one before we recorded, but it's just like I'm stunned by how impressive this series is. And you've got two, and I'll mention this when I talk about it at length on the show, but you've got 2 different artists, one who's doing stuff in the past, one who's doing stuff in the present. And I love the different aesthetic and how it kind of fits the different tones that the past and present are kind of bringing. I'm blown away by this series. It's every bit of praise that it has received prior, absolutely warranted. I will be moving this up the list to talk on the show. I honestly, I thought about bumping it up today, but I was like, no. This is the book I'm talking about today. I've wanted to do for a bit. There are other ones I've been wanting to do. I can't let it leapfrog everything, but holy shit, dude. I cannot make you wait longer to read this.
Oh, well, I've said time and time again, King is an excellent writer as long as he's not doing Batman. But when he does like these other characters, right, these ancillary characters, he knocks it out of the park. Absolutely tremendous. So
this will be my 3rd King book on the show.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I would have thought you would have done more, but yeah.
I did Superman Girl of Tomorrow. Obviously, when that news happened, we both went and did super family stuff. And
Helen of Windhorn.
Helen of Windhorn is the other one that I've done. And you've done Vision.
Yeah.
You didn't do Mr. Miracle, right?
No.
No, that's another
Vision.
Yeah, you did the Visions. Or whatever that title was called. Yeah. But yeah, that
was.
Oh,
and I think I did the other character that I did another Tom King book. I just name is escaping me at the moment, but okay. I've done 2 myself.
I thought you'd done another one. That's why I was like, I hadn't done it till Supergirl, and then that's how I got on Helen of Windhorn, and now here we are. The other thing, and I forgot to jot this down, but Lost Fantasy over at Image Comics. I've been seeing a lot. I don't know if you had, Joe, but on social media, I've been seeing a lot of hype around this. I think 3 issues are out so far. I don't think we've gotten the 4th yet, but I've been like, I don't know. And I kind of got ahead of the books this weekend. This is a healthy week for us, but I was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna check this out because I saw like another post on social media, and it goes to show that if you're posting about the books that you read on social media, it works. I consider Joe and I consider stuff all the time that we kind of slept on or whatever. Lost Fantasy. I'm not calling dibs on it. It's been good through the first 2 issues. It's on the right track for it to be, so you can absolutely hop in on it, but it's on the right track to be talked about on the show.
There we go. Can't read everything, but you can get back to almost everything. So there you go.
Yep, that's why we do what we do. So we make sure we cover ground, and then, over time, at least you and I are going to get to all the things we need to, and hopefully the listeners do as well. But yeah, a lot of catching up. Haven't done that. Haven't had stuff to break down necessarily in a bit, but I think it's time for us to get to what's new, right? Unless you got anything, Joe.
No. There was enough out this week to read, and I was away. I was camping, so
that's right.
I really had to do some speed reading. So let's start with Marvel for New Comic Book Day, August 20th, 2025. We have The Amazing Spider-Man issue 10, Ultimate Black Panther issue 19, Imperial issue 3, Wolverine issue 12, Exceptional X-Men issue 12, Did we get Death of Silver Surfer?
I will double check.
We should double check that one. I don't know about that one because I would have read that. Maybe I just missed it. We have Psylocke issue 10, The New Avengers issue 3, Godzilla Destroys the Marvel Universe issue 2, Star Wars issue 4, The Vision and the Scarlet Witch issue 4, Spider-Girl issue 3, Black Cat issue 1, which I believe is written by G. Willow Wilson. All new Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider issue 1, Marvel all on one issue 1, and Venom Black, White, and Blood issue 1.
I've double checked both the drive and my file on my computer. No,
Yeah.
we
Okay.
didn't get Death of Silver Surfer, so we didn't.
Okay, good. Because I thought I royally fucked up by missing that one, Nicholas.
Also, Imperial issue 3. I love this series. I will talk about it on the show at some point down the line. I've said it many times. When that's done, I've really liked what Jonathan Hickman is doing. Really like just a great space drama. Moving over to DC, we got Absolute Flash issue 6,
Excellent.
Nightwing issue 129, Detective Comics issue 1100.
So this was a nice little sort of anthology
Nice
issue, right? So they typically will do this with the big ones there. So we had a Tom King story, we had a Mariko Tamaki story, which was excellent, and a Dan Waters story that was excellent. There was another one in there that wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, but there was 4 little stories in here. I thought Mariko Tamaki's they were all excellent, minus the one that just wasn't for me. But that's a big issue, folks. That's a fun one to read. You pick it up and check it out.
Awesome. And then Batman, Superman, World's Finest, issue 42, Wonder Woman, issue 24, Batman and Robin, year 1, issue 10, Titans, issue 26, The New Gods, issue 9, Superman Unlimited, issue 4, Catwoman, issue 78, Crypto, The Last Dog of Krypton, issue 3, Justice League Red, issue 1. And then, Joe, a book that we made sure to tweet about without getting into spoilers, because, we got to respect some of that stuff and whatnot. But holy shit, dude. Absolute Batman, issue 11, Absolute Insanity is more like it. I'm still waiting on a wellness check for Clay Mann, because that dude, the stuff he had to draw in this issue, like, I'm stunned. Like, that was from an artistic standpoint. Nick Dragata has been doing an outstanding job in this series. From an artistic standpoint, like what Clay Mann had to do, I don't think we've had anything more unhinged in this series, and that's kind of saying something.
Yeah, and the whole Bane arc so far has been wildly unhinged. I mean, the Black Mask stuff was like, it seems like child's play at this point, and,
Yeah.
and while the free stuff was terrifying, it's still, nothing has sort of reached the level that we've gotten so far with the Bane arc, and especially this issue. Clay Mann just like doesn't hold back, and really really goes for the jugular, in this issue, and it was a wild ride start to finish. And I think I could say this, and Nick will clean it up if it is spoilery, but like, we get a really decent Bane origin story here, like an excellent one that it's a different take on what we know. Obviously, all of this is a different take from these characters that we know and love, but like, we've said it time and time again, like, the creators' decisions on where they're taking these origin stories and how they're making them their own uh, has been fantastic. And Scott's had to do that a number of ways, right? Not just for the main character, but also for the for the Rogues Gallery as well. And the story he tells of Bane I thought was excellent, 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 excellent.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And honestly, the whole bit about the villains too, like, I can't believe how the bar has been raised every step of the way when it comes to the villains. Because, like you said, Black Mask was a good villain. For the start, he was great, but then we get Freeze, and then it's like, okay, this guy's like really creepy. He's kind of got like a horror vibe. This is even better. And now we get Bane, and the way that the action has been elevated to the degree that it has is remarkable. And then Scott, if I'm not mistaken, Joe, when we had him on last, he talked about how Bane was kind of Bruce's opposite. And I felt like this issue really established that in a big way as we got to learn more about his origin story. And in last issue, we talked about, we sound like, I'm sure I sound like a broken record when I talk about how unhinged this series is, but it really is the case. I think you see anybody talking about it on social media or another podcast, they're going to say something similar. In issue 10, we really get an understanding of like how far Bruce is going to go and how he's like willing to like put everything on the line to do what he needs to do. In this issue, we get a greater understanding of just like how messed up in Twisted and how far Bane will go, where it's like it feels like there's a level to which they're cut from the same cloth, but they're on opposite ends of said cloth. And this is just this is going to be, as we talk about like books being experiences, this is as wild as an experience as you're going to get from any comic this week.
It's what makes us different that makes us the same, right? Is that how it goes?
Something like that.
TLDR. I've heard it both ways.
I don't know. Something like that. Anyways, what do we got from Boom?
Boom, light week from Boom. We have Grim 24 as we're marching down towards the final issue. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought issue 25, is it 25 or 26? That's
25.
The list. Okay, so it said to be continued and not to be concluded. Maybe I'm just misremembering that at the end of the issue. So I was a little confused there.
I don't think you're not misremembering. I guess the B's counterpoint, but so I did see Stephanie Phillips like kind of addressing comments at one point on, I don't know if it was Blue Sky or Twitter, but I could have sworn she said something like, "It's the end of Grimm." Doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of like everything related to these characters. Like in certain words, she said that.
Right, and she's being a little cheeky with it. So like, is that a TV deal? Is that a movie? Right? Is that?
Oh well, I don't know if it's a spinoff.
That could mean anything. Yeah, it could be anything.
Sure.
So this is just me. It's just me just nitpicking, but generally it's like to be concluded, right? But it said to be continued. So it's like, Now this very much felt like a penultimate issue. This was I love this issue very, very much. I'm not ready for the series to end, but I know it's going to end. And this kind of, like I said, this felt like a penultimate issue, but it said to be continued and not to be concluded. So that could just be me nitpicking over like wording. Like it could, but I want to make sure I wasn't going crazy on that, because I was like,
No, that's a fair point. I honestly didn't notice that. And I will say too, like I was, when we found out the series was going to end, I know there's been like a lot of pauses with this series, and it sucks because it's like it hasn't been like, arc to arc pauses, because we understand that kind of thing happens. And if anytime you're going to do it, it's then that makes sense. But it seems like it's happened kind of throughout, ever since a certain issue, and it's just like, that's not ideal. It's tough for a book like it has momentum to maintain that momentum when those things happen.
Yeah. And then we have VR Troopers. I'm going to take us through Dark Horse as well. So boom, we have Grim 24 and VR Troopers issue 2 from a Dark Horse. We have the Umbrella Academy Plan B issue 2, Los Monstros issue 4, Critical Role Vox Machina Origins 1 issue 3, or is that 2? I might have
Origins 1 issue 3. You're right.
Okay, all right. Resident Alien: The Book of Changes issue 1, Nicholas, and then we have Mad Cave.
Before I do Mad Cave, how far are you in Vox Machina? Because I know you started it finally, the show.
So it's one of those things where I keep watching a lot of the same episodes over and over, because I put it on before I go to bed, and I'll make it through an episode or two, and then I fall asleep, and then it's like, and I got to kind of go back. So I'm just about through season 1.
Okay, cool.
It's fantastic. I love it so much.
It's such a good show, and honestly, for me, that's like I haven't watched it in a bit, but that's a show like that's extremely rewatchable.
Oh, 100%.
Will totally like be a comfort show for me going forward and whatnot. Nice. That is a nice.
That's the Captain America cup I got from when the movie was in the theaters.
Oh,
I didn't see the movie, but I got the cup. It's a thick, sturdy cup too.
Yeah, jeez, look at that
vulcanized rubber on there. It's nice.
All right, from Mad Cave, as you mentioned, we got 3 books out from Mad Cave this week, and guess what? We're talking about all 3 of them because that's how damn good Mad Cave is right now. Joe, you have read all of them. I have read 2 of them. Which would you like to start with?
I'm going to start with Wild Animals. Did you read that one yet?
Yes. The only one I haven't read is the one that you...
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Joseph. Wild Animals issue 2, written by Ed Brisson with art by Andy Kuhn. And we loved the first issue. We got an advanced look at this first issue, and we had Ed on to talk about this book. And I have been waiting for this issue for what feels like forever.
Yeah. I hear
and that. Holy smokes, like the way that the last, like if you read issue 1, it was it was a beautiful build, right? And it really sort of came to a head, as it should at the end of the first issue, right? Making you want that second issue anymore. And so this issue picks right up where that first issue leaves off. And so now we are starting from a higher octane than what we did in the first issue. And the buildup in this one, the way that the second issue ends, holy shit. It leaves you off with one of those moments where it's just like I think we've all been there in our lives where we've done something and immediately gone, I fucked up.
Yep.
Yes. Right. And so like what Ed was able to establish early on in the first issue and carries through the second issue is that sort of relatability with the main character, right? You sympathize for them, you feel for them, you hurt with them, you feel anger with them, right? And there's a sense of revenge that you're immediately plunged into that you want to be for every second of the ride. And it's one thing to have that idea of revenge in our head, and then it's another thing to actually, carry those plans out and how difficult that can be. And all so like this issue absolutely ripped, man. This is like it's just an emotional roller coaster that is just full of sweet, sweet, gritty violence. And I am here for every second of it.
We've talked about it before, how whenever we have someone on the show, I've kind of adapted the like we want to be like the director's cut for a comic book, where it's like they're talking through their emotions, their thoughts, how things like connected the dots and everything like that. And there are a lot of times where we do it and it's like this, for us, like we walk away from a conversation, it's like, man, this did enhance the series quite a bit. Like, I would say on average, like if it's a scale of like 1 to 10, it's probably like somewhere at least in like the 5 to 6 range, which I think is actually like, it's very good. With Ed, I liked the first issue on its own. After talking to him, it was like he had one of the more profound impacts on my anticipation and enjoyment of the series that I've had from any conversation that we had. Just because the whole bit of like this, we've all thought like, oh yeah, if we were gonna go Punisher, if we were gonna get everybody back and like have revenge, like we would be able to do this, we'd get it done. I mean, even though we have like no experience and no background in anything like this, like no, that's not how it works. Things would get messy, and that's what's going to happen here with Neil. And I was like, as soon as he said that, I was like, dude, give me issue 2 now. Give me issue 2 through 5. I need the rest of this series. That's
usually I'm the fisherman.
Right? Yeah, but it's like that when I heard that, and it's like now we're doing it through the eyes of this like high school, college age kind of kid, and it's just like, yeah, I get it. And this issue, like it gets messy, like you talked about. Like we'll have those moments where it's like. Like it's not going to go as well as I thought it was, but I'm here now. I love the realness of the story.
Yeah,
I really do.
100%.
So yeah,
100%.
We look. You should listen to all the Friar side chats that we do. I love going back and listening to them. Of the ones from wow, this really opened my eyes, like kind of experience to appreciate the story to the level that I should. I think that chat with Ed on Wild Animals is up there for sure for our conversations.
100%. 100%.
All right, I'll take us to the other book that I read from Mad Cave this week, and that is a book that I mentioned a while back to you, and I'm glad that you finally got a chance to take a look at this thing. Eat Your Young, issue 1 by Brian Buccellato and Mattia Monaco. And I feel like you come here for Buccellato's concept, and if you know Buccellato as a writer, which we do, No One is my favorite bit of work that he's done. You got that. Then you also got Monaco's art that has like a similar sort of vibe to like Daniele Di Nicuolo, Seven Secrets, among other things, some stuff he's on a DC, of course, too. You have that combination of a writer that we know, concept that's really interesting, and then really, really cool art. Those are the things that are going to bring you into the story. But what gets you invested is the characters that you meet throughout the first issue. You have this wide range of like all these immortal individuals that are reporting to their father. They all share the same dad. And it's like, one's noble, one's a piece of shit, one you don't necessarily know. And it's just like and there's so many characters who are just, they're wild cards. You can't trust them at all. I mean, I don't know, Joe, I feel like we saw at least 50 like children of this immortal alpha from this group of Centurions, right?
There's a splash page where they're just sort of like, all sitting around a table, all in a room, and that's when you got to get the grand scope of it. Because, like, as you're going through the issue, you get introduced to a character here, a character there, a character right, and it still feels fairly micro, right? Well, you're
Yes, it
thinking, okay,
does.
maybe there's a half dozen, maybe a dozen at most, and then you kind of get the sense, no, there's dozens and dozens out there. And what was the book by Cullen Bunn that I to me feels very similar, where you had the dad who made the deal with the devil or
Oh,
whatever?
Hexiles.
Exiles, yes. Right. So there was a slight Exiles vibe to it in that sense, but just
Mm,
now it's like on a much grander scale. And now you add in that they're all potentially, or they're all immortal. Um, and just the different personalities, right? And there's two characters in particular that you meet that are just really, really, really live for New Year's Eve.
dude, oh my God, they were terrible.
They're
They're
the fucking
terrible.
worst. The
Yeah,
absolute worst. And you get a sense that they're gonna be, they're obviously gonna be a major driving force,
yeah.
in the story. So I am bummed because it's been sitting here. The advanced copy's been sitting here for a while. It's just one of those things that it just slipped right by me. But I'm almost kind of glad. So I haven't been like waiting too long for it. But now I
Hmm.
want that second issue.
Mm. Yes, and let just so everybody knows. Like I could have taken this many times. I did not call dibs on this book. I read that first issue and I was like, Joe, check this sucker out. You are gonna like this thing. It's a lot of fun.
Our tips list is ridiculously too
It,
long.
it is ridiculously too long. All right, but I do want to real quick kind of run through the concept. I did like kind of jot down some notes because I'm talking about how awesome this concept is, and people are like, "What the hell's the freaking concept, Nick?" So you've basically got this race of immortals known as Centurions. Every 100 years, there is a period of 27 and a half days in which the Centurions are not immortal. And so you have all that, and we're kind of like jumping in at the latest like 27 and a half day period where this is about to happen. If the alpha of the Centurions, aka the group leader, I think can be the mom, but could be the dad. In this case, we're dealing with a dad. If they die during the 27 and a half day period, the group loses immortality, the entire group, except in the case of one of the other Centurions killing the Alpha and then basically like consuming the Alpha's like heart's blood. Then you become the new Alpha. And then I believe this is the only part that I'm not entirely certain on, but I believe from there, you like your children and offspring from there on out would also become immortal, which seems like a 1+1 kind of thing. But that's the deal that we're kind of getting going into this. So there's a lot going on. And again, we're right about that start where everybody's about to turn mortal in this story. So things are going to get violent. People are going to die. And as Joe mentioned, there are a lot of characters in this. So I would argue it's kind of like, now that you bring up Hexiles, it's kind of like Hexiles meets Exquisite Corpses in a way, and
Yes,
how crazy
yes.
this is going to get.
And there's a line at the end of the issue. I don't want to say, I don't want to spoil anything, but I go, oh, these fuckers are ruthless.
Yep, they're bad,
So
dude.
yeah, yeah, shit's about to get real wild. But the last book from Mad Cave that we want to discuss is Endless Night, issue 3, written by Mark London, with art by Tom Derenick. And so I've been talking about Endless Night now for a while. Um, and this is the penultimate issue of this crossover event. This, of course, evolving the stories from Hour of the Wolf, Exit City, and Revolution 9. So we've all sort of been building up to this moment where, you know, the Revolution 9, they're down ahead, and they need to replace that person, but they need to get their hands on something very, very important. And you get a whole bunch of people looking for this. And last issue it sort of ended with the characters, the main characters from each book sort of meeting each other really for the first time. And then this issue really dives into them sort of getting to know each other in terms of like, what the fuck you doing here? What the fuck you doing here? What the fuck are you doing here?
Hmm.
Okay. Oh shit. Turns out we're all sort of in the same thing. And now we're working together to get the ultimate goal of retrieving this clock, because in the wrong hands, it could do a lot of damage, a lot of chaos, and is there's some serious consequences for some of our main characters, especially our character from Hour of the Wolf, if he doesn't retrieve that clock in a timely manner. So, I've loved this crossover event. It's been absolutely fantastic. Now, I think I said before, like, you could read this event without having read those 3 books, and what it's going to make you want to do is go back and find those stories and read them, right? And of course, if you had read them all, it's going to greatly enhance your experience. But this has just been a fun event. 4 issues, right? It's real tight. The pacing of it's excellent. The action sequences are out of this world, and like, I can't recommend the series. I know I've joked about, like, yeah, you can pay me off,
Hmm.
Mad Cave, by sending me more and more free shit, which is still true, by the way. But in all honesty, right, like, they continue to be the front runners for my MVP, because
Yeah.
each and every week, right, they just continue to deliver awesome, out of the box, kick-ass indie books. And this little event is nice, because it's not like you have to have read 1,000 different books or bits and pieces of 1,000 different books to understand what's going on. And there isn't like there's 1,000 offshoots. Like, this is how, like, a nice little event should be done,
Hmm.
right? You've got a couple of books where the main characters from each, like, are now sort of, it's sort of like what Radiant Black does, right? The
Hmm.
Massiverse does when they put out their annual sort of oversized
Supermassive.
story. Supermassive, thank you.
Hmm.
It's sort of like that, except this is just a little bit bigger, right? It's done over 4 issues, and it's excellent. So I can't recommend Endless Night enough. I can't recommend Revolution 9, Hour of the Wolf, and Exit City enough. So if you haven't read those books, you should check out, the mainline issue in which I discussed Revolution 9. But also just go back and read those titles, read this series. It's what indie books are all about. It's great, gritty, action packed storytelling.
Yeah. In to the note of, like, the floppies, and I don't talk about it as much necessarily with the MVP stuff as much as I am thinking about it. Um, Mad Cave is they were the unanimous winner for us last year. They really are on pace, because, like, when I see a week of, like, oh, they got 3 books out and we're talking about all 3 of those books, it's like you could say, like, oh, Image, like, they have a ton of good books out this week, and there are other books that we could talk about, but there are other books where it's like, yeah, we read them, but we don't read them like we're not on top of them week to week. Or there are some books where it's like, yeah, we kind of, like, just let them go or whatever. Or maybe we just, like, it doesn't look like it's something we necessarily want to get into. We check out every Mad Cave book. Like,
Hmm.
and I know they have less, so there's a level to which that's easy, but at the same time, they don't have to hit every single time. And they really do have, like, this. I think I feel like Mad Cave might have had a higher slugging percentage last year, but they have a better batting average this year. I'm not certain. That's definitely like an eyeball test kind of statement right now, Joe. But, like, we try and spread it out. You and I both don't. We don't, like, you don't want to talk about 2 books from one publisher. I feel like I try and go out of my way to make sure that I don't do that too. Like, but here we are doing 3 books from Mad Cave, and it's like,
Yeah,
what
Mad
you have
Cave
to.
right now, their OBP off the charts
Yep.
right this year. Tremendous
Oh,
OBP.
you would go OBP over average, you friggin' Bill James
Well,
nerd.
well, like you said, you got to take things into account, right? Like,
Yes.
they are a smaller publisher, they do produce less, therefore their percentages are just going to inherently be higher. But they're
Hmm.
they're just really cranking on all cylinders. Like, the thing with Image, like, yeah, they put way more out there. Okay, and so the things that stand out kind of can sometimes get lost in the shuffle because they
Hmm.
put so much out there. Whereas, like, with Mad Cave, like, when things stand out, they stand out because they're only putting out X amount each week. Now we got Oni late into the game, right? And so Oni isn't a publisher that we typically can get our hands on, but now we've been getting their review copies. Um, there's someone to look out for like next year
Mhm.
potentially, right? Because
It's
like
been a big year
their
for them.
their
There's a
hit
lot of
rate's
build
been
up.
yeah, their hit rate's been really, really high. Dark Horse for me last year was like neck and neck. This year, like
Yeah.
it's been a little, it's just but like
Yeah, a little bit.
here we are. We're talking about how the sausage is made, but like this is stuff that we as readers like we consider right when we're like,
Yeah,
and especially
exactly.
for those who have to like, ooh, I can only buy so many comics this week. You know, what am I going to buy? Who am I going to buy them from? Where are the places I'm going to go and look? And
Yeah, 100%. I don't think that's
yeah.
how the sausage is made thing. I think that's important. Like, listen, like, Marvel and DC, they have all their stuff in its uniform and whatnot. All these other publishers, yes, there are some crossover events like Joe just talked about, but by and large, that's not necessarily the case. You have everything else is kind of isolated within its own title, and you go from there. So it's important to know, like, who else is putting out quality. I know what I'm getting from Marvel. I know what I'm getting from DC. Who else is putting out good stuff? Like,
Mhm.
and right now, look, yes, Image again, but they're kind of in that similar DC Marvel area. They're in that weird middle ground where it's like they're not big too, but they're certainly not like a normal indie title or an indie company. If you're just looking at everything else outside of the big three, Mad Cave would be the first place I would say. Like if you're just blindly, I would say this year it's got to be Mad Cave that you do that with 100%.
100%, 100%.
All right, moving over to I'll take us through these next few, Joe. From Oni, we got Catacomb of Torment issue 2, Adventure Time, The Bubline College Special issue 1, and then League of Comic Geeks said we got Benjamin 3. I don't know that we got Benjamin 3
I
this
don't
week,
think
though.
so.
I think that's next week. But anyways, IDW, I know you've been staying on top of Benjamin. IDW, we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Nation issue 9. This is Declan Shalvey and Drew Moss, if I'm not mistaken, right? This is what
Yes, yes.
yeah, yeah. This will be a fun
We
one to
got
check
some
out.
inside scoops on this one too, so this will be one to check out for sure.
Yeah, we don't get the review copies for this, but it's definitely something to give a look for sure. Mothra, Queen of the Monsters, issue 5, Event Horizon, Dark Descent, issue 1, Godzilla 70th Anniversary Foil Classics, Godzilla in Hell, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Journeys, issue 1. From AWA Studios, They Chose Violence, issue 3, Kill or Be Killed, issue 1. From Vault, we got Post Malone's Big Rig, issue 2. And from Titan, we got Rebel Moon, Nemesis, issue 2. And then Dynamite, we got Terminator, issue 10. Captain Planet, we are not getting Captain Planet this week. I don't know why League of Comic Geeks has that. We get Captain Planet. We get the review copies for that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that to you. I'm saying that for listeners.
Yeah.
Thundercats Lost issue 6, Space Ghost Johnny Quest Space Quest issue 4,
Just
mouthful.
call it Space Quest.
Gargoyles Demona issue 3, Darkwing Duck issue 5, and Vampirella Armageddon issue 2.
All right. So if we're talking Image, we're saving Image for last. That means, as you already know, Nick, we're double dipping with Image today. But what a week.
Yeah.
Right. A
Yep.
massive week from Image and Skybound. We have Invincible Universe Battle Beast issue 4, G.I. Joe issue 10. I wish they'd give us the review copies for that again. We have the Department of Truth issue 33, Gunslinger Spawn issue 46, Hyde Street issue 8. Oh my God, what
Yeah.
a fucking issue!
Yep.
Oh, so good.
A lot
I
of moving
had to.
pieces.
Violet was looking over my shoulder, and I had to like put it down. It's like, no, you it's
Yeah.
not for
Dude.
you, little one.
Yeah. You don't want her see she could see Pranky and get the wrong idea and be like, oh, look at this cute kid.
Yeah. No, anything but cute.
Nope.
We have the Walking Dead Deluxe issue 119, Undiscovered Country issue 32, The Seasons issue 7, Falling in Love on the Path to Hell issue 9. There's been a little bit of time between issues over these last few issues, this one, but this was a very interesting issue. But is it ending in 10? I
I
think
don't
it's I don't know if this is the penultimate issue or not, but I believe
it didn't feel like it when I
we're
read
coming
it.
to a conclusion on this, I think. Ghost Peppa, issue 2, Witchblade, issue 13. This ends tonight, issue 2, which I did read, and that is another absolutely insane series. Bloodletter, issue 3. Dead Eyes, The Empty Frames, issue 4. Drawing Blood, issue 8. Blood Squad 7, issue 10. The Cold Witch, A Tale of the Shrouded College, issue 4. Dark Honor, issue 4. And then 2 books we'd like to discuss. I will take us with this first one, Nicholas, and that is Exquisite Corpses, issue 4, written by James Tynan IV and Shea Grayson, with art by Michael Walsh and Adam Gorham. And this is a book that is being heavily considered, Nicholas, for best new horror series.
Hmm.
This is a very violent series.
Extremely.
This is a very dark and twisted series, and I absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this issue in particular was just, it's all been high octane, right? It's all been like pedal to the metal, but the 2 elements that I love the most is one, the just the absolute insane nature of the killers, the different types of killers, the lengths they go to set up their kills, and then the manner in which they execute them, pun intended, figuratively and literally. But I also love like the behind the scenes, like poker game that's going on, if you will. Like, the rich players who are very comfortably safe, watching this all unfold, trying to take each other down, through, their serial killer pawns. But there was one moment in this particular issue where you had this lady looking to buy a used car. And you don't necessarily like know what's going on at first, and then like you quickly go, "Oh yeah, I forgot. These killers like to play with their food before they eat."
Yeah.
And then the manner in which she pulls off trying to get to her weapons cache was just so beautiful. It's so violent. But that was juxtaposed. I've heard it both ways. With another killer that is seeking sort of like their own bit of revenge. And I just love the look of the fox so much. It's one of the most badass character designs I've seen in some time. And so there was just a sequence of panels that absolutely blew me away. And just this issue, this series in general, is skyrocketing the top of a lot of my lists for a lot of different categories. And I can't recommend this book enough, especially for horror fans, but just comic fans in general. Like this is a book you're gonna read, you're gonna love. I'm gonna recommend it to everyone because
Yeah.
it's just that damn good.
It's we met in the very first issue on the main cover, and throughout the course of meeting all the killers, we met this fox mask killer, and she's got, like Joe said, great look, just like this character looks like a total badass, and she's going to be a problem for all the other players in this crazy game. And we finally got to spend some time with her. I don't want to say more than that, but very promising entry or re-entry, however you want to put it, into this series. And also, you talk about like some of the other characters we're seeing. We've seen them all in varying levels, but right now I feel like when you talk about the players, the killers in this game, we've mostly dealt with, like, in terms of like screen time, for lack of a better way to put it right now, with unhinged serial killers. We haven't really had these, like, we spent in the first issue, it was a lot of time with that military dude, but outside of that, this was really the first issue that we dealt with some more calculated,
cerebral,
cerebral, somewhat normal presenting, but mostly just like you said, like cerebral, not unhinged killers, players in this game. And I like that. It was a nice little change of pace in that sense. And guess what? The energy, like you said, still very much there. Still as good of an issue as we've gotten in this series. Each of these first 4 issues has been outstanding. Like, this has been a very strong start to Exquisite Corpses.
100%. All right, take us to this last one, Nick. This is another excellent issue.
This is another one where I just, again, I want all the credit in the world, for, it may have not been at my best in issue 114 of TLDR, but leading up to that, I didn't take Eat Your Young from Joe. Totally could have done that. And I also didn't make a preemptive call on taking Escape issue 1 from Joe either. I knew when I saw this cover, Joe, it didn't matter. I knew it was a Rick Remender title, but as soon as I saw Daniel Acuna's cover for issue 1, I was like, I'm reading this shit and I'm going to fucking love it. And I was absolutely right. Another anthropomorphic title from Rick Remender. I don't know what's going on, but guess what? He's friggin' killing it with these. This one seems to be exclusively animals, where like sacrificers were dealing with some like gods that have like more human-like characteristics to them. I will say in this first issue, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, no sign of birds in the first issue, if I'm not mistaken.
Talk of bats, but no sign of birds so far.
Well, where do you stand on bats?
I mean, I don't like them.
Well, they get you birds. You're like, I feel like if you see a bird, in a certain place, like you're turning around and going the other way. Are you doing that with bats?
I mean, I once freaked out when there was a bat in our house chasing me down the hallway. Sure. But no, like I'm generally not out during the time of day in which bats are present.
Gotcha.
Although I will say I did have some fun tormenting my brother as a kid when camping, and knowing that there's bats around. If you throw like little pebbles in the air, they will swoop down at them, right? So throwing them over my brother's head and having bats buzz the tower, if you will, that was kind of cruel and kind of fun.
With friends like you, who needs enemies? That's wow, what a guy. Jeez. But so with Escape issue 1, this like the setting is effectively like World War II Europe times. We spend a lot of time getting to know this character Milton, who's a pilot in this war. We spend a lot of time with his crew as well. Gets you really invested in the relationships that are there and the chaos that these characters experience throughout the first issue. I was so engrossed in it, Joe. And Daniel Acuna's art is just, it has such like a hyper realism to it that it's just, given you're dealing with anthropomorphic characters, I find it fascinating. I everything about this first issue I really enjoyed.
Yeah, it was a mile a minute, right? And you felt a part of that world, right? Like if you've ever watched Saving Private Ryan, if you ever watched Band of Brothers, right? Like that storytelling, that imagery, right? That part of our history, like you just become engrossed, and that's what Remender and Acuna do here, right? They is very much a World War II, setting, right? And I even felt like there were elements of what's sort of going on today, sort of embedded in throughout that, but visually, right? It is very much like what you would see in a World War II, movie or TV show. And so there was a realism there, and not just with the art, but a feeling of like, oh, like we've seen this before. We can relate to this. Like this is very much like, based on, sort of real events, and just the way that Remender sort of takes us through this issue, right? The highs and the lows and the way that it ends. I mean, there's consequences, and you expect that in a war story, right?
Yep.
And so there's some real like heartfelt moments there. There's some moments where I wanted to strangle the main character, but like you understand their drive and the way the issue ends, right? And I've said this a number of times today, but like I can't wait for the next issue, because like this is like why I've gotten so into binging, right? Because that episodic of having to wait, it's like watching Band of Brothers for the first time, and I gotta wait a week before I find out, what happens. In this case, a month, right? But that's how engrossing the story is, right? And so, like I said, the consequences are very real, and the suspense, and it is very real as well. So excellent first issue.
Yeah, really, really good week of comics this week. And what was nice about it, there was a lot that we liked this week, that in certain things like Hyde Street we're not digging into, Department of Truth, Fall in Love on the Path to Hell, just from Image alone. I just felt like this week wasn't as like last week. I think it was just insane. And then we get some weeks where it's just like, what's going on? Maybe we'll have that next week. I don't know, but it's just this was like, if every week was like this week, I would be very happy. That's how I felt. This is a perfect week, like a healthy mix of stuff, some clear standouts. Everything else, everything was good that I read. But I'm probably asking for too much, quite honestly. We get to read all these for free, so maybe I'm being too nitpicky. Anyways, we got a mainline episode, so it means that you got a book to break down at length. I'm very excited to hear about this one.
Yeah, this is I thought about doing Dark Patterns this week, but I've been very big too heavy the last few mainline episodes. So I wanted to kind of get back to my indie roots here. And this is a book I've been wanting to talk about, and it's a book that really hit me, and that is The Moon is Following Us from Image Comics, written by Daniel Warren Johnson, with art by Riley Rossmo and Daniel Warren Johnson, colors by Mike Spicer, and letters by Sean Lee. Synopsis: Sam and Duncan Lamar love their 6-year-old daughter, Penny. So right there, I know this book is going to hit me different.
Yep.
They love their 6-year-old daughter, Penny, more than anything in the world. But half a year ago, she was taken by the Cascade, an evil force that they barely understand. Now Sam and Duncan must fight side by side with the magical beings Penny cherished to try to get her back before she's gone forever. So this was a 10-issue series, and this book really does have it all. And I didn't realize, because this is not something that I had. This is something that we probably did a solicit for, but I don't tend to read the synopsis of books before I read them. In this case, Daniel Warren Johnson, I've read, Do a Power Bomb. I've been reading Transformers. I'm very familiar with Daniel Warren Johnson's work and love it. So I think by the time I read this first issue, I wasn't fully aware of that aspect, right? Of, mother, father, daughter, right? So like you get that first issue, and then as it builds through the 10 issues, like this is a book that just really resonated and hit me hard. And so The Moon is Following Us, to me, is a great mix of fantasy meets the Matrix. Right. So, Do a Power Bomb was sort of that sci-fi mixed with wrestling reality, right? It was more sci-fi than it was fantasy, and that was really fun, and that was also emotionally gut punching. This, right, really combined those two things really well, the fantasy aspect of it and the sci-fi and sort of the Matrix like element of it. And so like right up until the end of the first issue, right, you really feel as though what you're reading is strictly a fantasy story. You're in this weird world. There's magicians, there's wizards, there's talking frogs smoking cigars, there's kick-ass Barbie dolls, there's weird bat creatures with like 6 baby arms. It's like really kind of screwy. But you very much feel as though you're in a fantasy, and you feel like you're getting a fantasy, story. And then you get to the last several pages, and the tenor of the book sort of flips you ass over tea kettle, and you get a greater sense of what the story is all about. And so to me, what this book, ultimately has done is solidified Daniel Warren Johnson to me into that upper tier of writers who knows how to just absolutely punch me in the gut emotionally and really like bring all of that out of me, like Lemire, like Sean Lewis, and it's just there's also like Chip Zdarsky. He understands the human psyche, I think, really well, and whether it comes from personal experience or what he might draw it upon, like he's able to really get the reader to connect to his characters and to his stories. And so this is a story of family, of loss, of trauma, right? The power of letting go, but it's also a story of perseverance, right? And the story starts off with two parents sort of trapped, like I said, in this bizarre sort of fantasy world, and they need to find and save their daughter Penny. And early on, you've got no idea why, how, right? You're just sort of thrust into the middle of like this sort of raging war, with two sort of grief-stricken parents just wanting to find their daughter, needing to save her from who and from what. You just don't know. And what you learn at the end of the issue is that what this is really is that it's a reality, right? And the fantasy aspect of it, it's part of a dream world, right? In which Sam and Duncan must travel to in order to save their daughter Penny, who has apparently been stuck in this world for 6 months. And she's what you learn is that she went to bed one night, never woke up, but she's still breathing, she's still alive. It's like she's sort of in this coma, or as they talk about in the second issue, stuck in this state of sleep paralysis. And so when they go to modern medicine to look for answers, it's not there. They sort of are confronted by this mysterious character, who says, "Well, I know how to save your daughter. It's a little unconventional,
Hmm.
but I can help you, right?" And this is where the fantasy slash science fiction part comes in, and it's a little Harry Potterish, right? In the sense of when Hagrid, you're a wizard, Harry, right? And he discovers like he's
Huh.
a wizard, and that there's this other sort of magical world out there. It's sort of like that in the sense when we meet this character, Tash. He's like, I know how to save your daughter. And so what he's able to do is this is where it's like the Matrix, where it's like they put on these VR headsets and they're able to go into Penny's dream world. And her dream world is all of her memories. It's all of her, like, think of as a kid, like all the toys you used to play with, like all the memories that conjures up. Well, then imagine being able to go into that your younger self's brain and live in this fantasy world where all your toys are alive and they're all their own characters. Like when you're playing with them, when you're playing with your Ninja Turtles or your GI Joes or your Transformers or your Power Rangers or whatever, and you're there like creating these worlds, and you're playing with them, and you're going up to scale on the couch, the coffee, all that. Imagine that, but then actually being a real legit sort of fantasy world. And that's sort of what the moon is following us is. But the consequences are that Penny is in there, she's trapped in there. You find out later on why, and all that. But like they've got to save her. They don't know how, and the only way they know how is to get sort of sucked into this war, and they've got to fight off whatever it is that sort of infected Penny's consciousness there, and they've got to find a way to save her, right? And the villains are of her own conjuring as well, and so it's like, what is this infection? What is this sickness that's sort of plaguing her? And it's that journey that you go on where you realize it's not just Penny dealing with trauma, but it's also her father, her mother, and some of the other characters involved as well. And as that gets fleshed out, it really is just like there's a point where it's just issue after issue after issue. You just go, fuck,
Hmm.
oh god damn it, right? And what that does is then it leads to an ending that is it's very powerful, right? And just a beautiful way to end this roller coaster of a series. So like it's got lots of violence, it's got lots of action, it's got a lot of heartfelt moments, it's got a lot of depressing moments. It all sort of comes together and culminates into a really powerful story. But at its core, right, it's a fantasy sci-fi book that everyone should read. Right? It's absolutely tremendous. It's very similar to do a power bomb. in that sense, is that it just takes you on this beautiful, ride. And again, it's a story of perseverance. It's a story of loss. It's a story of trauma. It's a story of learning how to let go, being able to let go, which is not an easy thing to do. So, I'm not going to go into all the characters because I think a lot of that would be spoilery. But your main characters are Sam and Duncan. Sam is the mother, the wife. She's very aggressive. She is an act first, think later kind of, person, and she very much wants to get her daughter back and will really stop at nothing, to make that happen, even if it means sort of endangering the lives of everyone around her. And she's got to take no prisoner approach, which leads to some very awesome action sequences, but also some consequential sequences as well. And like that's the other part of the story too. Like as a parent, you especially a parent of a young child, it sort of brings out all those fears that you have of like I couldn't imagine like going to get my daughter up one morning and she won't wake up. Right. That's a fear. That's a real fear that you have as a parent, especially early on. Right. Um, and it's that fear of the first time where you're in a public place and you lose sight of your kid for a minute and it feels like an eternity. And you can't relax until you're like, oh shit, okay, there they are. Right. It's like he's able to conjure all of that. Right. And fuck, man. And then you've got Duncan, right, who's the father and the husband, and he's more passive in nature. He's more of a planner. He wants his daughter back just as much as Sam does, but he likes to take a more pragmatic approach. But he's often belittled by Sam because she is so aggressive in wanting to get her daughter back that she'll often say, "You're not strong enough to do what needs to be done." Like she's willing to go there. He's like, "I want her back, but I can't lose myself." In the process. And there's shit that you learn about Duncan, that makes you fuck, holy cow, right? Didn't see that coming. But he's a much stronger character than anyone realizes, right? And you get that sort of at the end. And then there's Penny, of course, who is the daughter, and she's at the center of this entire story because she's the one that's sort of stuck. And you get little glimpses of her, who she was, who she is, who she can be, but she's mostly sort of there in the background, right? Because she is the ultimate objective. So she doesn't necessarily have to be a prominent physical character, but she's ever present in everything that happens, in the story. And then there's Tash, right? He's a magician, who can relate to what Sam and Duncan are going through. And so he acts as sort of their guide on their quest to save Penny. He's the one that introduces them to the technology and how to potentially, save her. And his story arc is absolutely wild as well. And there's things that you learn about him and his story that really his character really takes this story up several notches as you get about halfway through. So Daniel Warren Johnson to me is just simply a master, at telling these wildly outrageous sci-fi sort of fantasy stories that also carry a tremendous amount of heart. And being able to marry those things is not always easy and not always well executed. And he always seems to find a way to do it perfectly. As an older reader, with a family of my own, like I said, this story is extremely relatable and it really, taps into our greatest strengths, weaknesses, and vulnerabilities. So, you read it and, I think like you might read this a different way than I read it now. And then you might read it again, when you ever decide to have kids and you might read it differently and go, shit, okay, right? Like I get that. And I think that's just what makes a Daniel Warren book Johnson, so special, whether it's like I said, Do a Power Bomb, Transformers, this, like he's just so good at weaving action and storytelling and heart into all of his books.
You so a few things in there. One, you said there were bat people in this story, right?
Yeah.
Did anybody throw pebbles at them in this
No,
story?
you
No,
should
no,
have.
no.
You should have.
I was
Piece of candy.
as soon as you said that, I was like, I needed to ask if you were on a roll. So I'm like, fuck. Yeah. So I had to hold on to that. Two, when you talked about the like losing your, as Joe mentioned, like I don't have kids. My brother just did. Very excited about all that, but I don't have that experience yet. But when you talked about losing your kid in a public setting, it just reminded you how like every time my dad was just watching over my brother and I up until a certain age, if he scolded me for a second and looked at me, my little brother was just gone. Like no clue where he is. And then I'd get in trouble for it extra. And it's like, dude, I got in trouble. He left. That's not my fault. Like, you got to pay attention. Like, it's just,
that's on you, old man.
Yeah, exactly. You very quickly reminded me of that. As soon as you're like losing kid in public setting, like I didn't do that much, but I was blamed for that happening a time or two. That's for damn sure. But yeah, this sounds like I mean, obviously, like Daniel Warren Johnson's like he's very much known for his art style, but he's really taken some massive steps as a writer as well over the years. And I as soon as you've been talking about the series, I look, admittedly, I still haven't read Do a Powerbomb, and part of that's just because I know you're like, it doesn't matter that you're not a wrestling fan, but that's definitely a thing for me still. I will probably read The Moon Is Following Us before I read Do a Powerbomb, just because it's totally different and there's no, like, it's not in that same lane. But as you've been talking about this even before now, I was just like, I can't wait to check this series out, because like Danny Warren Johnson really is an impressive writer. And like, I'm very excited to like have some fun, but also experience all these different emotions. And I think that's where, when you talk about all these different writers, like some with the ones that provide those emotional gut punches, some of them like are serious the whole time, but I feel like there's a levity that can come with Daniel Warren Johnson's work in some capacity at times. Does that seem fair?
Yeah. You know, because he's, you know, because it's important. You need to have that, right? Because you don't want to be depressed the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, unless you're reading a Lemire book in which you are 100%
Say
depressed.
some do,
right?
Some do.
But he does a really great job, you know, with that, giving you some lighter moments, giving you some positive emotional moments too, right? And then just quickly, you know, you marry that with, you know, Riley Rossbow's art. You know, it's gritty, it's raw. You know, like they're just, the two of them create, you know, this visually, you know, emotionally raw story that you read and you see. But then the action sequences you get, you know, Spicer's colors are fantastic. And I just altogether, like, there's some really awesome action sequences in this book too that I just think are drawn, you know, extraordinarily well. So The Moon Is Following Us. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'll be reading that shit for sure real soon. And you know, that's a book that's talking all about family, and it's also an image book. That's the same case for the book that I'm talking about this week, both about family elements and very much an image book that is 7 to Eternity, a little bit longer than the book that Joe's talking about, but not by much. Written by none other than Rick Remender, with art by Jerome Pena. And then we had James Herron doing issues 7 and 8 in this series. Colors are by Matt Hollingsworth and letters by Russ Wooten. This is a series that I did not read while it was ongoing, and I think I actually benefited in that situation, because this was 17 issues, but it ran from 2016 to 2021. There was obviously like pandemic delays in the mix there, and as I was kind of looking through, just to kind of tighten up on the run, it seems like there was another extended stretch of just pause in the action for this series. But if you read it in trade form like I did, if you read on Hoopla, you can read there's one collected edition of all 17 issues. It's like you wouldn't know that was a thing that necessarily happened to this series. So, you know, just like Rich said when he talked about Last Ronin, honestly, dude, when we did that, so we recently did an episode with #Dork where we did the best non-Marvel and DC comic books of all time, and we talked about The Last Ronin. Joe, when he reminded us of the delays with Last Ronin, I was like, I got smacked in the face. I was like, I forgot about that shit. Oh my god! Like, had you forgotten too?
Oh no, it was very much you know, burned in my friggin' memory. Let me take a look real quick. The Last Ronin. I want to rattle these. I want to rattle these off.
Oh, the dates, the delays.
So it ran. So 6 issues, 2 years.
That's just
okay. Let's see. October 28th, 2020. February 17th, 2021. May 26, 2021, September 22nd, 2021, and then April 27th, 2022.
Oh my God. Yeah.
4 issues, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 issues. Like, holy smokes.
Yeah, that was bad. When I looked at this one with Seven to Eternity, it was like the first 12 issues just bing, bang, boom, and then massive pause. One issue in that time. And then Pandemic, which obviously is a different situation. But it's just like, it's unfortunate that that happened. So I'm sure people who read that when it was ongoing, it was frustrating. But if you're like us and you're just checking it out now, it's a non-issue for you. Synopsis on this bad boy. The God of Whispers has spread an omnipresent paranoia to every corner of the kingdom of Zal. His spies hide in every hall, spreading mistrust and fear. Adam Osiris, a dying knight from a disgraced house, must choose between joining a hopeless band of magic users in their desperate bid to free their world of the evil god, or accepting his promise to give Adam everything his heart desires. All men have surrendered their freedom for fear, and now one last free man must choose. Man must choose. What?
I read that as Adam Oates.
Adam Oates. He's a high fantasy character, and he knows how to skate pretty good too, apparently.
Well, with that mullet of his, you know, he could definitely be high fantasy.
There you go. So we mentioned Adam Osiris. He is the main character in this series. We mentioned the God of Whispers, aka the Mud King, but his real name is Garlus Solm. He is the magic users that's alluded to in the synopsis. They are known as Mosaks, M-O-S-A-K. This guy was a Mosak, and he has been turned into, he's turned himself into the king of this land. He has, all these Mosaks have like a unique ability to themselves. Like, I'm not saying there can't be some doubling up, but we don't see, as far as I remember, we don't see any doubling up throughout the course of the Mosaks that are featured in this story. His ability is he can bond with other spirits, and what he does is, like, he still has to get permission from people to do that, but he'll offer them their heart's desire to get inside their like head / spirit, and then boom, bonded to them, stays with them forever, can't get them out. So that's where it allows him to manipulate everybody in some capacity, and also have this remarkable reach that I talked about in the synopsis. So it's just this massive problem that this guy has created. And Adam Osiris now is an adult, where he's grown up with a lot of this, because his dad, Zebediah Osiris, was also a Mosak. And at one time he was friends with the Mud King. But he's like the only dude alive who has said, like, no, I won't hear the Mud King's offer. Everybody hears his offers. And it pretty much, if you hear his offer, you're not going to say no, because it's like, he knows, he has this innate ability to just like find a way to, like, this is the one thing you want. And sometimes you know what it is. Sometimes he knows you better than you know you. And then it's just like, nope, there's no turning back on this. We also get some other Osiris characters. We've got Katie, who is Adam's daughter. We've got Nival, who's Adam's wife. We've got this character, Javalia, who's a subject of the Mud Kings since she was a kid, working on his behalf. Like, you see it in early in the series. We see her pop up in the first issue, but we see a flashback with her in the first in early on in the series, and it's just like, damn, man, this poor kid has really been through it. And she goes through an interesting arc throughout the course of the series. And then we have other Mosaks who enter this mix very early in the series. From a conceptual standpoint, this is such a Joe book, and I'm so excited for you to check this series out, Joe, because and I was actually listening to Rick Remender talk about it separately, where he's like, this is kind of like a nod to those 80s high fantasy paperback books that Joe has talked about a lot on here. And you have that nod in this story. I think it's very much that. And the art reflects that. And I'll get to the art later. It's gorgeous art. But I think if I was to, like, in a nutshell, say why I love this story, on top of the art being awesome, is Rick Remender is kind of doing an extrapolation on this a certain would you rather question. And it's like, would you rather do a terrible thing and no one will ever know that you did it? Or would you rather not do the terrible thing and everyone will always think that you did do it? And it's just kind of like one of those quandaries where it's like, do I actually want to be a monster or do I want to be perceived as a monster? And like, how am I going to walk through the world knowing that? And like, it just, there's this principle is very much at the heart of this story. And for me, that's something that like really speaks a lot to me. And throughout the course of this, like, that's where you've got Zebediah Osiris, who extremely like, this is what I believe, this is what I'm going to do. Yes, it has created some struggles for my families, but we are still in the end better off for it. And I am not compromising who I am as a human being and becoming a worse person by like abandoning my principles. And then it's like, well, some shit happens to Zebediah pretty quickly in this issue and in this series rather. And then it's like, now Adam's like, well, I respected my dad's principles. He was right about some of this shit, but it's also really damn hard. And like, my entire life have been like viewed as, oh, the Osiris, they're the greatest betrayers in all the land. And it's like, we didn't do shit. We're like the only ones who didn't do shit. Like, and now we got to deal with this all the damn time. So like, this is where I love that, because it's pushing this character so much. And it's just like, the conflict that this guy's dealing with is so palpable from start to finish. And there's so many times where it's like, is he going to do it? Is he not going to do it? Did he do it? I don't know. You're asking yourself questions about it throughout the entire series. And it's just like, he's a relatable character. He's a good character, but you talk about all the time, like, he is massively, massively flawed, where it's like, I'm like, I love the story around this character. I don't know if I love that dude. Like, because it's like, so the questions that the decisions he makes along the way, she's like, what? Huh? But like, that was so fascinating. And then obviously we've talked about how Rick Remender's a great writer, but I was struck as I was kind of like just looking back through the first issue, because I read this months ago, and I was like just kind of skimming through the first issue, and then there was a couple of lines that really struck me, and I think they really encapsulate the series well. One of them was, the hardest thing a man can do is remain noble when the whole world sees him as a coward. Again, playing into this whole would you rather kind of situation that I was talking about. Another line, what do you do when the one I think I have a typo here. Oh, what do you do when the thing you hate most holds your only hope? And I was just like, shit, that's tough. Like, what do you do in that situation? So there's a lot of tough questions that are like present and also made abundantly clear throughout all of this too. And this is also, and I'm saying all this is all talking about the concept, some layers of writing, some layers of character development. The world building is so rich. So much is done in the first issue of this to lay out the world building, but you get it throughout the course of the series too. And again, you have like all the characters that are getting laid out. I loved it from a concept standpoint. Some great writing from Remender, of course, and then the art, amazing colors and the detailed inks. Those really bring that throwback vibe that you're going to really appreciate, Joe. You're going to get it with the story too, but I think with the art and with the landscape too, there are some times where it's really breathtaking, and sometimes like breathtaking in the sense of like, man, this place just got friggin' decimated. So it's like, there's some beautiful shit and there's some like, well, this sucks, but it's really impressively illustrated and it really has that high fantasy feel that I know you're going to be familiar with. And it just makes the whole story, like the whole world rather, feel very much lived in. And then on top of it all too, the Mozaks, other characters have unique character designs, so all of them pretty much do, but the Mozaks above all else, and you'll know when you see them, they make their presence very much known. But it just has like they all have a very different vibe, all feel like they're in the same world, but again, like that throwback kind of fantasy feel that you're familiar with. I think you're gonna really like this series. I'm gonna go as far to say you're not gonna binge the fuck out of this, because you're gonna want to really enjoy every single page that you take in.
Oh, I think you underestimate my ability and love of binging. Because once I find something that I love, I won't put it down until it's done.
Totally
I mean,
fair.
I think I've read. I think I've like not the first few Harry Potter books, but like once I really started getting into it, Goblet of Fire on, like in the real thick some bitches.
Mm.
I think I read all those within 48 hours of getting them.
Oh wow,
You know, just
I did not know that.
binging, just
I will say
hammering right through it.
you have this thing where when you talk about like our dibs list being long, there are times where you'll have like be 20 books deep, and then you go inside one weekend. I'm just gonna check this thing out, and then you tell me, "Oh, dude, I just read this and it's so good." And I'm like, "Well, everything's getting bumped for that book now." And lo and behold, it never fails. And that's why I almost did that with Strange Adventures. So
Yeah. Well, you know, because it's like it's one of those things where you love reading it so much you just want to talk about it, right?
yeah, totally.
Um, and so I mean, I can't. Yeah, that happens on uh, more often than not, to be
Mm,
honest with you. Um,
it's good.
yeah, especially lately too, because you know we go through these runs where we just fireside chat, fireside chat, fireside chat, fireside chat, solicit, and then we haven't done a mainline issue, and it's like, oh well, I've either got to reread something that's on my dibs list or something a bit. Let me check this out, and I fly through it and then discuss it, right? So
Mhm.
that's generally how the mainline issues have been going lately. Like this is a book I've been wanting to talk about, so I've
Yeah,
been waiting to do that. But like the next main line could be a book that I've never even it's not on my dibs list, never thought about reading, came
sure.
across it. Boom.
It's what's happened to me with me in Strange Adventures. It's very likely going to be the next book that I discuss in detail on this show, quite honestly. But yeah, so Seven to Eternity, and the moon is following us. Obviously, got to a lot this week. We you and I are going to discuss off air if we're going to do a solicit or not next week. But make sure you subscribe to our audio channels and to our video channels, or I guess YouTube and or Instagram as well. Until next week, Joe.
Oh, keep reading, baby.